Welcome to Virtue Design Institute Visual Communication Skills. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to present a tutorial in advanced type skills for InDesign. Our first step is to open a new document. So we go File, New, Document. We're going to have facing pages, but we're only going to have 2 pages. We want our pages to be A4 and a portrait orientation is fine. The margins we're going to take down to about 8 millimeters and we're going to add 3 millimeters of bleed. Now in our pages tab on the side you can see that when you set up a book style document your pages are offset like this. If I was to add an additional page you can see it would start to create a book, and again if I added even more pages you can see they're a book. But we just want the 2 pages and I want my pages side by side. To do this I need to go up to the top here and allow document pages to shuffle, and by doing that I can click and drag and have those pages go right next to each other like that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up text in columns. So what I'm going to do is select my type tool and I'm going to click and drag it over this area. I'm then going to go type, fill with placeholder text. Now that's a good amount of text. I'm just going to select all, edit copy, and then I'm going to add more type. So I'm just going to paste it again because I want to get, if you can see it, this little red plus sign down the bottom here. That's a good indicator to let you know that there's too much type in your box and that some of it's being cut off. The next thing I want to do is add my type columns. Now how I do that is I go up to this little symbol up here which indicates the columns and I use my arrow to click up. 2 columns, 3 columns. I'm going to leave that as 2 columns for now. This little button below it plays with the gutter, the space between the 2 columns. I can also do this by clicking Control click or right click on the box and go to text frame options. And in here you can see I can change the number of columns and the gutter. I can also play with insets, so the amount of room that the type is inset from the boundary of the box. I might leave that at 2 mil. And I could change the justification, but I'm going to leave that at the top there. Again, taking it back down to 2 columns and about 6 mil in the cutter. And I'll press OK. I then need to show the rest of the type that's missing here. So if I click on this red plus sign here, you can see I now have the rest of that type that I'm carrying around to place, and I'm going to click and drag to the margins of the page and fill the rest. I'm once again going to create my columns and my 6-point gutter. The next thing we're going to explore is how to use the paragraph tools to create lists and indents in the type. To do that, I'm just going to zoom in on this section and edit the type a little bit. I'm going to create a list, so 1, 2, so what I'm going to do is highlight this numbered section here, and using my paragraph tools I want to create a bit of space in between each of these numbered paragraphs, and I can do that right down here using space before paragraph, and I just click up and can make that probably about 2. I'm going to create an indent from the left hand side by clicking up with the arrow here. I'm then going to subtract from that indent I just created to the same number to create a nice aligned indent with my numbers still aligned to the very left side of the copy. I can do the same for the right side. I can create distance from the type underneath each paragraph, and I can also make the number or the first letter of a paragraph bigger for emphasis. So if I minimize out of there, I'm just going to go make that 0. You can see how it starts to nicely define our type, so it's a little bit easier to read when in a big body of copy. Another helpful tool to use is the hyphenate selection. So you can see there's hyphenations all over this. Most publications that you'll work on don't need a hyphenation, they're better without it, and you can just unselect that box and it gets rid of the hyphenation. You can also change the alignment of your paragraph here, justifying to left, justifying to center, justifying to right, centered or right. We'll just leave it as left, but those options are there for you. One last thing you can do with your paragraphing is to justify it to the top, the middle, or the bottom of the box that you have it within. To display that, I'm just going to delete some of this type and select our box there, and if I go up here you can see the different options: top, middle, bottom. You can also select the justify vertically and it will extend your type to fit the full vertical of the box. The next thing we're going to do is look at introducing special characters to your type. I'm just going to again delete some of this so we have some more space to work with and zoom in. Often you'll use trademark symbols and copyright symbols, and what you can do is just have your cursor going in the type box and go to Type, Insert Special Character, and then go through the symbols. So we have the copyright symbol. We have the paragraph symbol, registered trademark. That one's quite small, I might blow that one up so you can see it. And the trademark symbol. There are other markers, hyphens and dashes, quote marks, and then some other ones here. The other thing that you might want to do is look at your fonts and see if there are other glyphs that you can use. You can open the glyphs window just by going to Window, Type, Glyphs, and you can see here in a standard font there are a ton of different glyphs or symbols that are part of the actual font but don't present themselves, and you can just select which one you want, quite a few for currencies, and it will appear. And that's how you can edit your type and add special characters in InDesign. We're going to learn how to wrap text around an image. To do this, we need to first insert our image. So we're going to go to File, Place, and select an image that I prepared earlier. I have two ready to go. The first is a product image. I'm going to click and drag and just place it within the context of our columns. Next, I'm going to place our second image. And I'm going to have her go over the side of the page here. Excellent. Then I'm going to go to Window and activate my text wrap tool. I have it already open, but that's the text wrap tool there. I select my image and then I select the type of wrapping that I'd like. In this instance, because it's a square image, I'm going to choose to jump the object with the type. I can also add a border around it to move the text further away from the image. I'm going to do a different type of wrapping for my girl here, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I want the type to wrap closely to the figure of her body. So what I do is I select the image and I'm going to select the wraparound object shape. And in the contour options, I'm going to have Indesign detect the edges. That way it does a quick clipping mask around her body and then wraps the text around the figure of her body. I'm going to go back in and then increase the space in between the type and her body. I'm just going to edit this area between her legs because I don't actually want any type there. So what I need to do is to edit the edges that Indesign detected. I use my direct selection tool and click on the image. You can see the area just present itself in light blue there. And then I'm going to use my pen subtraction tool and custom edit the wrapping area by deleting the wrap space that is allocated. And then you can see there's no longer text between her legs. In addition to that, again using my direct selection tool, I'm going to drag the anchor points just by her right foot out so that, again, there's no more type there. If I minimize the view, you can now see how I have text jumping an image and wrapped around the figure of the girl. Now, the next thing we're going to do is place type over an image that has wrapping set to it. And the reason you might want to do this is because you might want to put a heading over the top. So what I'm going to do is just create a new type box with a heading. I'm just going to quickly make it bold and a little bit larger so that we can see it. And I want this type to go right over her body here. Now, unfortunately, you can see the red dot plus sign appears here because it can't be seen. So what I'm going to do is Control or right click and go text frame options for that box. And there's this nice little selection box here called Ignore Text Wrap, and it's such a useful tool. Ignore Text Wrap, we select, and now we can place image in this particular box over our image. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to create a table from type. The first thing is to set up your type appropriately so that it goes into the table nice and neatly. So the first thing we need to do is we need to separate our information by tabs for columns and by returns down the page for rows. So I'm just going to do item, tab, description, tab, quantity, tab, total. And then I'm going to copy and paste down the page. I then select my type and I go to table, convert text to table. I'm going to separate by tab and row separator by paragraph. And I press OK. And there you can see my table. I can then start editing my table. I can also edit the widths by highlighting and going up the top here and editing here. I can highlight and go to table, cell options, stroke and fills. And then in here I can change the colour of the lines around and of the fill. So I'm going to make the fill blue. The line around I'm going to leave as black, but I'm going to make the weight 0.25. I'm going to then go and select the rest of this and go back and change the stroke and fills of the whole table to 0.25. And you can see there how you can start editing the look of the table. You can highlight, insert, columns, left or right, 1 or 2, we'll go right, 2. You can select across, insert rows, 2, below, there you go. You can highlight across and then again change the size so they fit back in. A nice and simple table for you then to edit. And this is a great visual representation tool for quantified information.